Hello and welcome to Adobe Live. Thank you so much for joining us today. If we haven't met yet, I'm Jordan Danae Ellis, and I'm here as always with Andy Lambert. Hey, Andy, what's up?
Hey Jordan, good to see you.
You too. We'll intro ourselves, but quickly, if you haven't joined for any of our monthly social recaps, this is where Andy learns everything that's happened in the world of social and tells all of us in under an hour so that we don't have to do the research ourselves, which is great. So stay tuned to find out what is happening in the world of social and how you can take whatever amount of these tips and tricks you want into your own content and marketing plan. But before we get started, do you want to intro yourself first?
Oh, it's very kind. It's very kind. Hello, everyone. If we've not met before, I'm Andy. I'm a product manager working on Adobe Express, most specifically the social media functions in Adobe Express, which Jordan will share with us all in a second. My background's all been in social media. I'm quite frankly quite boring guy. I spent all my career in social media, had to learn everything there is to know about social media, which I mean is changing all the time, which is a kind of impossible task. So my job here, my promise to everyone on this call, as Jordan's already mentioned, is to talk about all of the trends, data, all of the changes that are happening in the world of social. And the objective here isn't to overwhelm or bombard you with all the things you should be doing. It's about trying to find those kind of main trends that are happening in the world of social. And there's only a handful of them that can inform our strategies to help us maximize our results. So that's the promise for today. Jordan, over to you.
Yeah, I'm Jordan. I work on the Adobe Express community team. So I love doing workshops and presentations and things, helping folks learn how Express can help them make their lives easier and make content faster and get it posted on social. And before that, I ran a small business for over a decade. So I know a lot about keeping up with trends and how hard it is while you're trying to run a business or run a marketing plan or keep up with everything, like Andy said, that's changing all the time. So we bring a bunch of different backgrounds into this. So hopefully, whatever version of this you're doing, hopefully you learn something that you can take away from today. And yeah, make your life a little easier. So with
Love it.
that, let's dive in. There's a lot to cover today, as
Let's get
always.
into it. So, hopefully a slide is on the screen now. Let's
Yeah.
let's go ahead, and if you want to take these slides away, just go ahead, scan that QR code. It'll ask you for email address, and it'll mean that you'll be receiving these slides and a recording of this. Because there's quite a lot, you might want to go ahead and go back to something that you looked at early in this presentation, or maybe you've got to leave to do something else today. Go ahead, take these slides, and that way you'll keep on top of everything that's happening in the world of social. Now, with that, Jordan, I promise we'll talk a little bit about Express. So over to you.
Yeah, and I also forgot to say I'm manning chat today. So if you're watching live, please feel free to drop questions. And if you're not watching live, Andy and I are very available. So feel free to ping us or, yeah, get on the list and get all of this info. But this is the Adobe Express Content Scheduler. If you haven't played with it, it's totally free to use for your social marketing. So sorry, I don't know, my brain is broken. So if you are looking for an easy way to make sure that all of your content goes out when you want it to, set up a calendar, even as in this example, just to draft all of your posts, so you have ideas of what content is going out when. Please try it out. It's a part of Express. So if you already have Creative Cloud, the premium version of Express is included for you, but you can also play with this totally for free. So it's a great way to not only make sure the content that you are thinking about and then creating actually gets posted, because I don't know if anyone else is guilty of having a great idea, maybe even making it, and then just not actually getting it live, which is arguably the most important part. So we make it nice and easy with the content scheduler and Express. And as always, ping us if you have any questions trying to set it up. We think about this all the time. So we will hopefully have answers for you because we work in this every day.
Exactly. And any feedback you have, anything that you'd love to see in the product, we're all ears as well. So yeah, we'd love to hear it. Go ahead, try it out. Let us know what you think, because it's always improving. So just like social media, it's never going to stand still. It's always going to develop and change. So with that, we're going to break this session down into two parts. If you're new joining us, this is how it goes. Two parts. First part, data and trends. Second part, going into the feature updates that are happening on each individual network, and we'll go network by network. And our promise to you today is, rather than just say, here's a load of stuff, go figure it out, we try and give some perspective on how that feature or why that update's important and how you might use it. So a lot of stuff coming your way, but the idea here is to make this as actionable as possible so you can make the best possible choices with your social strategy to say, okay, I like that, I might do something with that. And even if you just come away with one new idea today, we'll consider that a job well done. All right, then. Let's talk about some kind of macro trends that are happening. Now, I found this data particularly interesting. Creators are outperforming brand engagement rates. Probably not a massive surprise. If you look at the average engagement rates on that benchmark table just on the right-hand side, you'll see what this looks like across multiple platforms. But the interesting thing is like an average brand engagement rate. So when we say engagement rate, it's the percentage of people that interact with that post, that see that post. So that's why it's a really good measure of how that content was perceived and how it went down with the audience. Typically, creators have a 1000% better engagement rate than brands. Yeah, is that it? Yeah. So
Yeah, wow.
probably not. I mean, I didn't think it would be that big, but probably not a massive surprise that content that's from humans performs better, right? Probably no
Fair.
surprise, right, Jordan?
Yeah, that does make sense.
And I think that really talks to the whole growth of the creator economy, the importance of our brands partnering with others. I think you've got some really good examples from like your time running your small business, like collaborating with others, etc. Do you want to give a bit of a narrative on that?
Yeah, that's when that's what I was doing full time, and even now, honestly, at Adobe, my favorite like types of posts are the kind of cross sharing, collaborating, because for so many reasons, and Andy and I talk about it a lot. But one, it's like getting in front of two audiences at the same time, and then two, whenever I have a platform, I like using it to share other cool things and not just talk about myself all the time. And that's kind of been a sweet spot for me, and a way to like a really nice way to use social platforms to like create community. So that's there are lots of ways you can do it, and it's always changing. Like now that's even easier. We talk about collab posts and things like that all the time, but it's getting easier and easier to work with other people, even if you're not doing something literally collaborative, but just even, sharing work that other people are working on or shouting out in that type of way is really cool.
Definitely, definitely. And a couple other perspectives on this. Like when we talk about like creators and influencers, that doesn't always mean like, paying money for people to post about you. You
Yes.
can find people that like are trying to do a similar thing to you or target a similar audience or have a similar mission and find people to partner with, because there's always a value exchange that isn't just related to money. And I think that takes a bit of creativity, as much creativity to like figure out the right partnerships as it does to create the content. But honestly, the more people you can work with, the better your results are going to be, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And that really speaks to this next slide, which is 3 in 5 consumers find social media influencers as a useful source of tech information, which is highlighted in this report, but a whole bunch of other information. Influencers are typically driving the narrative that's happening on social. Again, probably not a massive surprise to many people on this call, but the way that all of these trends are merging together just goes to show the importance of finding others to collaborate with, finding other personalities to humanize your brand and raise your presence and reach, because that's really where trust is engendered, because you trust the people that you follow, right? And that's the thing that really creates a brand. A brand ultimately is just a promise of trust. So find those other people to work with. I think this really kind of underpins that point. We've got a lot of video data and trends coming your way now. Probably no surprise to anyone either. And I said, like, a lot of these macro trends, if you kind of elevate the data in social media, you'll see that it typically follows very similar trends, right? Creators and influencers, nothing new really. And social networks are doing a lot they can to facilitate those kind of interactions. Same with video. If you look across all of the networks, you'll see that the total watch time, the time that people are spending on social, is increasingly driven by video. And it's not just about Instagram Reels or TikTok. Don't sleep on Facebook Reels, which are pushing that very hard, because Facebook is starting to become more effective for brands again, particularly as a result of Facebook Reels. Similar thing with more kind of niche creator driven platforms that are kind of more private community platforms like Discord as well. Increasingly, social media is all about video. Fortunately, there's a whole bunch of tools in Express that will help you create video content, particularly short form content, which can help you here. But yeah, I find that a very interesting trend. Getting into the weeds a little bit more here, there's some very interesting consumption preferences and the way that people are changing their behaviors on these platforms. So if we look at YouTube Shorts, which is growing like wildfire right now, you'll notice that the slightly longer shorts, so as a reminder, YouTube Shorts is only up to 60 seconds, but the slightly longer shorts are making up more of the uploads right now and are driving the majority of views. So that kind of longer side of short form content, 30 to 60 seconds, is performing better, giving the message more time to kind of have a bit of a narrative and a story arc to it.
I
Similar
can't
things
even think about making a video less than 30 seconds. I feel like for me, that's like one sentence.
Yeah, I'd have no idea how
We
to do it. I mean,
obviously both love talking a lot, so we can't we can't hang out in that space.
exactly. Although having said that, Jordan, I saw on your Insta today you had a very short video, didn't
That's
you? Like
true. I
talking about
just
your
did
new
a
office
a
space.
goofy little making faces in my office, probably because I didn't say anything. That's why it was less than 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
it
just
just
kind
goes
of curious for chat, like which of these are you playing with? Curious to hear how other people are using shorts. Keep going, Andy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's a really good point. And similar with TikTok, obviously you've got a bit more flexibility on TikTok. We can go up to 3 minutes on TikTok, and some people have the opportunity to go up to 10 and 20 minutes in some cases. Not everyone has that. But the longer side of short form content is performing better. So as you can see, the 1 to 2 minute content is making up the majority of uploads and also driving the most views too. Just going to show that like the engagement and the time that people are spending watching content is increasing, as we saw from the chart a couple of slides ago. So that does give us a bit more optionality to kind of really tell our stories through short form video, where it's not all about like very small 5, 7, 30-second videos, which are very hard for brands to actually tell a story within that format. Sticking with TikTok as well, it's becoming a lot more business focused, and it's becoming a lot more applicable to many businesses. I'm sure many people on this call are over TikTok already, but it's really interesting to see that like the viewership of certain categories are growing. Now, unsurprisingly, beauty and music continues to perform very well, but the bit that caught my eye is the largest growth that's happening around business and finance. I'm sure we've
Yeah,
all seen
wow.
like hashtag FinTok, for example, personal finance advice, and just general like business growth ideas, marketing tips, all those things related to business that are much more kind of a little more B2B, typically more kind of brand orientated. Just goes to show that we shouldn't dismiss TikTok as a entertainment only platform. A lot of educational orientated content is performing very well on it. Any other point of view or perspectives before we move on,
No,
Jordan?
but it's just nice because I am not as up on TikTok as I would like to be. So it is like I don't see the trends first. But I do remember when I first started, it felt like certain industries, that's basically all it was. So it's nice to know that there's more space for other types of content too. So if you aren't, selling clothing, there's still room for you on TikTok.
Definitely. I like that. I like that. And just a quick plug as well. Next week's live,
Oh yeah.
we'll be hosting TikTok here. So I'm sure I don't think we have the link ready yet, but when we do, we'll share that. But it'll be great to hear all of this directly from the TikTok team. Right, sticking with video, it's the fastest growing content type on LinkedIn as well. I've noticed a lot of creators, actually, I was talking to a few over the last week that have started to branch out their creator endeavors from Reels and TikTok into LinkedIn too. They're not moving away from those other platforms, but adding this to the mix. And as you can see, video uploads are up 34% year over year. We're going to show more about what LinkedIn are doing about like the full screen video feed as well. You'll probably see this today anyway. If you open a LinkedIn app and click on a video, you'll notice that it goes into like a full screen video view, which you could swipe through. So just goes to show there's a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn as well. But again, with all this and everything I've said about video and how it's growing on Discord and it's don't sleep on Facebook, yada yada, the number one principle has always been and will always remain the same: is go where your audience is, right? So if your audience aren't on LinkedIn, that's cool. Don't worry about the fact it's growing, just forget it. But if you're trying to serve a kind of more professional audience or the business audience, they're going to live on LinkedIn. So just make sure you do your audience research and then kind of choose your channels appropriately. We can't be everywhere. We don't want to stretch ourselves too thin. And the nice upside, however, of all of this growth of short form content and vertical video is it does make content repurposing incredibly easy. So that does help us lower our barriers. All right. YouTube, we know YouTube's massive. It's approaching 3 billion users, which is frankly staggering. And you'll notice that it's now making up 10% of overall TV viewing. So when you look at this is the whole TV market, and you'll now notice if you look on the right, you look at streaming makes up 40% of overall the overall TV market. And you'll notice that out of the streaming platforms, YouTube is the biggest, overtaking Netflix. It's the number one streaming platform, frankly. And the fact that anyone can publish to it just frankly is mind-blowing for the opportunity that presents for brands. Particularly, if you consider the things that we mentioned related to YouTube Shorts, we mentioned how much value there still is in long-form YouTube content. Honestly, I try not to give like too many platform recommendations because it's so audience specific. YouTube is the one that like cuts across demographics. Like everyone watches YouTube, everyone uses YouTube, so there's a significant potential in it.
And it's been around for a long time. Like we talk a lot too about it's nice to try new platforms and don't just jump ship forever because you can wear yourself thin for sure. But it is really nice that YouTube has been around for a long time and it's definitely had its journey, but it's the same kind of thing too. We've I feel like certain platforms, I don't have stats on this, but certain platforms, like their content seems to last longer. Like Pinterest, is searchable and sticks around in a way that's different from like Twitter and Instagram that's a little more in the moment. And I think YouTube absolutely, like there are, lots of people have like their best videos are still getting clicks and views, months or years later. So I'm with you. I feel like it's a great platform.
Definitely agree.
That's very searchable too.
Yeah, 100% with you on that. And here's a bit of left field data. And this surprised me when I saw it. In terms of the time spent on platform, the fastest growing right now is Reddit. Who'd have thunk it? Yeah, exactly. Reddit's partnership with Google is really paying dividends right now, because what you'll probably notice if you search for any kind of educational search term, like how to do, video editing, for example, I'm sure you'll see Adobe Express SEO pages turn up, but you'll also see probably above that Reddit threads related to it. There's a huge amount of traffic that's coming through Reddit threads right now as a result of that partnership with Google. And I think that's representing some really interesting opportunities for both advertising on Reddit and also thinking about like your community strategy as it relates to Reddit too, because that's quite an interesting way as a small business to hack SEO by responding to the threads that are surfacing the top of search results on Google on Reddit. So there's very little stopping us from like interacting on that and starting to have a meaningful dialogue. Of course, we can't just get involved with a Reddit thread and then drop links to our brand and product, because that's not going to go down so well. It requires a different mindset to it. It's not like marketing, but it's like that kind of community engagement type of thing that really does help brands grow. So I think it's definitely one that's been an interesting concept for people to explore. Any thoughts on that, Jordan, before we move on?
No, just exactly that. Like it definitely seems like the kind of platform that you have to put more energy into, and exactly like you said, not
That's
just
it.
drop in, make a comment and then leave. But that's also really powerful if you are looking for community. I've heard so many incredible stories of, finding your people on Reddit, because we talk about finding your niche all the time. That's my
Hmm.
favorite thing. And there are so many niches on Reddit. So I think it really is a pretty amazing place for that. So yeah, don't sleep on the community there for sure.
Definitely agree. And like, even if you don't decide to engage or post it on Reddit, it should be a part of everyone's audience research anyway. Because if you find, to your point, Jordan, if you find like your kind of niche community on there, whoever you're targeting, whether it's cybersecurity or like, geek subcultures, whatever it might be, you can find your tribe there, understand so much about the community by asking questions there, where you're
Hmm.
not trying to sell anything. You're just like, how I'm just here to learn, and you'll get a huge amount of value just through that. So right. Talking of B2B, and I often talk about like business to business orientated brands, right? Those that are selling to other businesses, because they're typically a bit behind the curve as it relates to social compared to those that are selling to consumers. But the great thing is that they're starting to take social media more seriously, and social media content, videos, blogs, newsletters, podcasts, all increasing substantially, and this is what people are forecasting they're going to be creating more of going into next year. So if you're sat here as like a consultant or someone that works with these kind of brands, you'll see that people are starting to recognize that social is changing. We can't like just advertise like we used to. Paid ads on Google and Facebook are getting more expensive, so we do need to focus more from a B2B perspective on content and community. So it's great to see that's actually being reflected from those in the business. Social shopping, a huge trend. We spoke about it loads in like the summer of 2022, and it kind of went away a little bit as consumers grew a little bit tired of like pushing Instagram shops, Facebook shops, and it went a bit wild. Went away for a bit, and it's kind of come back again. And you'll notice that a lot of purchasing behavior is still happening on social. Like 60% of people have bought something, these are US
That's
shoppers, on
amazing.
Facebook in the last 12 months. Now, this isn't necessarily just like ads that you've been served. Most of that's actually been driven by Facebook Marketplace, right? So people trying to snap a secondhand bargain, of which I'm guilty of too. So that's driving a huge amount of it. But like TikTok Shop also is absolutely huge. And as you can see, I think a lot of people are getting frustrated by the amount of like TikTok shopping content. But
Yeah.
anyway, social shopping is very much a thing. So lots of people doing it. But when you look at frequency, like how many people are regularly making a platform? So making a platform, making a purchase on the platform. So whilst we see 60% of people have bought something, in our previous data here, whereas who shops regularly on the platforms? And interestingly, like Snapchat, Reddit, and TikTok come up the top, and it's fascinating to see Reddit up there. And one would hypothesize that's a result of that partnership with Google, how it's being surfaced so highly, like great quality ad targeting, that kind of thing. Really interesting to see how, if you're looking at direct commerce, direct to consumer type of commerce, this data will help guide your strategy and where you should be focusing. Talking of X, Jordan, do you spend any time on X these days?
I do. Yeah, I do. There's like a nerd Twitter, which is now X. So I love like talking about niches. There's so much great like comics news and stuff there. I took a little break. I'm not on it every single day, but I do hang out on
Good.
it
And
occasionally.
I
Yes.
think it's nice to have like some qualitative data behind this too. Like there's still value in it if you find your right tribe and find the things that add value to you. If you look at in the European Union, the users across X there's been what can only be described as a bit of a mass exodus, right? Huge amount of users starting to move away from X, and Same as obviously happened in Brazil as they closed down X in Brazil, and all those users are moving to this app called Blue Sky. I wouldn't necessarily say everyone needs to jump on a brand new platform. They've got 9 million users, which is still a lot less than Twitter's 250 odd million. So we don't need to worry too much about it. But again, it just goes to show the growing fragmentation of social and how these kind of more smaller niche communities that we've spoken about a lot, they're finding their place to thrive on the internet. So could be one to add into your audience research and think about for 2025. Brand usage is continuing to fall on X. So basically, we're painting quite a negative picture with X or about X with this data. So it's good to know, Jordan, that you're still using it, still finding value. But I think there's a lot of question marks over brand's future on the platform.
Yeah, and the chat is agreeing that it's not most people's favorite platform, which is fair.
Yeah, that is fair. But like, no judgment whether you want to or whether you don't. Find whatever's right for you and your business. All right then, so they're the things that are happening across the world of social, and typically, there are really only 4 trends that are happening. Creators and influencers continue to grow, engagement rates continue to grow. We've spoken about how important video is as well. We've spoken about how social shopping is growing, and we've also spoken about some kind of niche platforms like rises and falls, how Blue Sky, Reddit are growing right now, and how X is declining at the moment. So really kind of 4 overall trends. So let's go network by network and have a look at what's going on. In the US, I don't have this yet. Obviously, you can probably tell my accent, I'm not in the US. So their bot creation platform is now ready for you to use. So if you want to create a AI avatar version of yourself to respond to people, you can. I am a bit mixed on this. Get it from a business perspective, whereby it allows you to take a break from social and allows like the bot version of Jordan to respond to comments using your tone of voice, Jordan, and providing useful resources. That's okay, but like, does that take social away from being social? I'd love to know. Maybe I'm not thinking about this in the right way. I don't know if you've got any perspectives on this, but as you can tell, not a huge fan.
Yeah, I'm not going to be trying this anytime soon. I think for at least Andy and I, kind of the reason we're on social is to interact with people as ourselves. So this is not that interesting to me right now. I can understand like if, for example, you have a brand that has a lot of questions get asked and you have 0 resources to answer them, and this way at least you're getting some information to the right people. I could see that maybe, but personally, I'm not I'm not doing this right now.
Yeah, that's
so
fair.
if you DM either of us, you're still gonna get us.
Yeah. But I'd love to know, is there something I'm not thinking about? So if anyone's got in the chat that's got some interesting scenarios for this, or thinks how they could use, an AI version of themselves or a kind of custom character, yeah, we'd love to know. Always want to learn this kind of stuff. All right, that's it from Meta. Let's go on to Insta. Insta is chunky. There is a lot of happening on Insta, and if that's your kind of main account or a platform that you use, there is a lot to get our heads around. But again, there's some broader themes guiding everything. So let's start with some data and analytics. So views in Instagram's mind are more important than followers. It's very annoying when you see a typo on a slide that you're talking about. So that's meant to say than rather than that, but just ignore me. You'll notice Instagram analytics is going to change to focus on views rather than followers. Say before it was like accounts reached, followers versus non-followers. As we know, Instagram's changing, continues to change, particularly the feed. It's less about your social graph and your followers. It means that followers don't actually matter as much as they used to, which is, good or bad, depending on the way that you want to look at it. But really, it's about the topic, it's about the content that succeeds. We can go viral with 1 followers or no followers, or, we can reach no one, even if we have 150,000 followers. Now, depending on where you are in your journey, you'll have different perspectives on that. But one thing's for sure is that views are one of the most important metrics. The other thing that is very important, we shared this when we last did our roundup, this is shares. share rate is a really important metric for Instagram, particularly as it relates to Reels. So that is a really important judgment of the quality of your reel, which will mean it will get shown to more people. If more people share it, it means that your content or your reel will be shown to more people. Same that if people view your reel all the way through and you get replays of it, so if someone watches it all the way through and watches it again, it means that user is retained, means that Instagram are going to reward you with additional reach. So why shares is important, because from Instagram's research, they've seen that a lot of people share reels in DMs. And as you'll see, as we go into talk about, DMs is possibly the area of the biggest growth on Instagram right now. So Instagram are leaning into this like crazy, trying to promote like private sharing. I'll talk more about that in a second. This is a good one. Not too sure if I'm ever going to be creating an Instagram carousel with 20 slides. Could do it for this. I could make a carousel out of this. This updates deck. Yeah, could do that.
That's true.
Just gives us more flexibility. And of course, each time that someone swipes to the next slide in the carousel, it means longer engagement. It means deeper engagement. It means we're going to get rewarded with additional reach. More flexibility. I'll always welcome that. Jordan, you'll like this one. So
I will like this one. This is so annoying to me when I forget to collaborate with someone.
There you go. I thought you'd like it.
Oh yeah, the number of times I've had to delete a post to then go back and add this.
Now you don't need to. Real life use case right there.
Yeah.
And yeah, perfect opportunity for you to kind of increase your reach by tagging other people. We all know how important collab posts are. Like Jordan, you mentioned this earlier. This got people talking.
Yeah, wild. Yeah.
Yeah. Has your grid changed?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Let
me see. I'll report back in 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think mine has. But yeah, we're moving away from squares, as you can see, to a slightly more portrait layout.
I still have squares.
You still got squares. Interesting. Yeah. It's rolling out slowly. We don't actually know when this is going to happen, but naturally, if you're someone that's very aesthetically driven, you care deeply about your grid and how it's coordinated, like this example here. My grid is actually chaos. So every time I look at it, I just want to like shut my eyes because it's not very nice, because reels don't look very nice in like the square format.
Yeah,
that's why they're making it bigger. Also goes to show like how important the Instagram portrait post format is going to be, right? So if you're not aware of that, you've actually got a great starting point for your Instagram portrait post on Adobe Express, which you can use. It's going to mean the square post isn't going to be as important anymore. So yeah, the only constant on Insta is change. So let me know what you think about that. But this, as you can see, this is just something we need to be prepared for in future, because this will be rolling out to everyone soon enough. Story comments. I made reference to this earlier, like how Instagram are really leaning into much more private and one-on-one interaction. Stories has always been popular for the use case of like feeling closer to someone, getting a behind the scenes look and having that kind of more intimate feel. And of course, stories is one of the few dimensions of Instagram, or post formats I should say, that's driven by a follower graph, right? Feed obviously is not. Feed is all recommendation, whereas your stories, your place there, you can actually connect with people that you follow and you care about. So adding comments to this allows people to spend more time on the platform, have a deeper interaction. That's the thesis from Instagram anyway, and that's what they're kind of trying to drive. And they're trying to drive that more. We've spoken about it a few times. It's a broader kind of theme that's happening across social, is the rise of like private communities and more kind of one-to-one or smaller interactions, as people kind of, certainly the younger audience, are starting to move away from consuming content in the feed, which is interesting. John, any take on this? I'm talking loads.
Oh no, I totally, like, there are days where I'm like, oh, I only have like 2 minutes to be on social right now. I do look at stories first instead of the feed. So I understand that, because I think exactly like you said, it's a less like polished version usually, which sometimes feels more real. Sometimes it's also messy. So I do like looking at feeds too, because there is a little more consideration there. Sometimes stories are a little like the Wild West, but I totally get it. Like, it's just kind of especially with, friends and people you actually know. It's nice to just be like, oh, what weird thing are you up to now? It's not as like curated.
Definitely agree with that. And yeah, Instagram Notes. Notes has been incredibly popular with the younger audience. And again, going into that trend of like more private DM type of more personal interactions. So Reels and grid posts now allow notes to be added onto them. Before, notes could only be added at like a profile level, kind of like it was like your status back on, when you're using messenger apps.
That's
Yeah,
exactly what it feels like, your away message.
yeah, that is exactly that. So from the days of using,
Nostalgic
yeah,
for us older
MSN or
folks.
Skype or whatever. Yeah, probably that dates us a little bit there, Jordan, but never mind.
100%. 100%.
So now you can add these notes. So if you've got like these little comments you want to add on directly on a grid post, and that just kind of shows a slightly different dynamic to comments. Rather than comments being lost underneath the post, these notes actually are on top of the post but disappear after 3 days. Again, leaning into that more kind of private way of communicating. And I think there seems to be a growing trend, certainly from younger audiences, where they don't want to be held accountable to the content that they create that will live on forever.
Smart. Truly smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. I think
and it lets you play a little more, like it just feels a little less, it feels a little less serious, like more room to experiment without something being permanently around forever.
Really good way of putting it. Yeah, I really like that. You also get notifications when someone leaves a note on your post, just like we saw. So it might be interesting to try that out. This, again, I don't talk about tests too much because it just kind of a bit bewildering because there's always tests happening. But I think this was significant enough to kind of underpin the direction that we've been talking about for the last 5 or so minutes. It's like Instagram are testing like that center action button, which currently is like your post creation button, to be messaging, right? That kind of goes to show quite how distinctly they're leaning in on like DMs, private type of messaging, those kind of more personal interactions. Now, I don't know if this will actually happen, but it just goes to show that's kind of a big direction of travel for Insta. Again, leaning into the same trend as broadcast channels too. And I think with the ability now to reply to these broadcast channels, I always love these broadcast channels. If I only had 10,000 followers to actually have one, it would be great. But these broadcast channels allow you to have more distinct interaction around a certain subject matter, of which and now you can start to have like replies on them, so you can actually build some interaction into it, of which I think this now kind of makes it into like Instagram's version of Facebook groups, if you will. So you can get like your own community around a subject. So unsurprisingly, I like that very much. So if you're in a fortunate position to have 10,000 plus followers, definitely check it out.
Well, and that also, I feel like we've talked about broadcast channels, I think on this stream, but definitely in my own conversations, that especially for like community-minded people, something that's only one way is tricky, because even like email, like newsletters, you can still reply to them. You know what I mean? So something that is only one direction, like isn't that appealing to me. So this is huge. And it's great.
Really good take. Overlay ads are now available. So if you do advertise, you have budget for advertising, then you'll find this in the Meta Business Suite. So these little overlay ads live here as well. So you can see they're a few different formats. So they render quite well, although it makes it a little bit tricky for us as creators, because when we think about our safe zones for our content, where those adverts get placed.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to resolve that one, but if I think more from like a business perspective and ads, I think those overlay ads could actually be a really nice and interesting format, slightly less distracting than you swiping through to the next video and it just being a flat out ad. So these are more embedded on the content. This is interesting. So there is a new opportunity and a new feature called account status, which allows you to see whether your post had been lowered in the feed. So if your content is not being shown and you're like, why did my post get 1,000 views last week and this week I got 100? So this allows you to kind of get rid of that kind of like, have I been shadow banned or what's going on?
This is
Um,
huge.
this
This is
is
like a massive question being answered, which is great.
exactly. I hope this is available to everyone. So yeah, feel free to go check it out. This is quite nice too. So you get some more options after deleting a comment. So you can basically say after you deleted it because someone posted some spam or nonsense that adds no value, you can be like, okay, cool, I'm going to block their account or block any new comments from them. So you got more control basically to say, go away, this is a safe space, don't annoy me, which I like.
Great.
Sharing hide share counts on Reels as well. I know you've always been able to hide accounts on your hide share counts on your feed post, but now you can do so on Reels too. You can translate stickers and text automatically. So whenever, if you toggle this on and you have any
That's
stickers
cool.
that you've used, yeah, so that kind of really extends the reach of your content. Got some new text animation tools like bouncing text and typewriter effects as well. So if you want to add some of those text effects to your Instagram Reels and Stories, you've now got these. You can add music on your Instagram profile. So anyone old
Again,
enough?
dating us. I know this, all of
Hello,
these,
MySpace.
anytime I see a feature that I'm like, oh, I used that 20 years ago. It's just so
Yeah,
funny to see how things come back.
it's amazing. It's amazing. And then we can turn on automatic sharing if we want to cross post our Instagram or Facebook posts to threads as well. They've been leaning on that for a while. So yeah, good opportunity again to repurpose our content. Told you there's a lot of stuff. I'm just doing a quick time check to make sure we're all good. New text options for Reels and Stories. So now we can help our Reels and Stories stand out with these new different text effects. Of course, you know, you could do all the same in and more within Adobe Express too. So little plug for Adobe Express because you can do all that too. And stickers and photos on carousel posts, which is pretty cool. So we can now have all the, you know how stickers have performed so well within like stories, for example. Now we can bring the same to more static posts in our feed. So single image and carousel. And now we can add our stickers there. So that allows for different levels of interaction as well. So I do like that a lot. Right. The rest of the networks don't have such a plethora of updates, but there's a lot to digest there on Insta. But
I'm glad Instagram has
generally,
some cool new stuff. That's great.
there's a lot of cool new stuff. Facebook, only 3 things, very tactical. You can edit a reel after posting, which if you're like me and you love a typo, you can
Yes.
edit it straight away. So
So
editing
nice.
reels, very useful. Pin comments on your Facebook Reels. Like I said earlier, Facebook Reels are driving a lot of growth on Facebook right now. So it's helping some of that organic reach return. So you'll notice a lot of features happening around Facebook Reels. So now we can pin comments, which will be familiar to everyone else. And on our Facebook page, we've got a bit more flexibility where we can now have 2 buttons at the top of our page, which might be a link to your website or might be a link to, like, you know, subscribe to your Substack or podcast or whatever it might be. Bit more flexibility. Over on LinkedIn, we can now verify our company pages, which again gives us kind of like mark of authority as well. So that can be useful. Probably you would only be doing that if you were like a significant size business where it really matters to do this, but it's good to know it's there. This I really like, where we can now sponsor user-generated newsletters. So LinkedIn allowed us to sponsor other newsletters from other companies before, but now let's just say one of our staff has created a LinkedIn newsletter and has kind of gathered quite a lot of subscribers, because again, going back to the very first slide, creators or individuals tend to drive more engagement than brands. So let's just say, you know, let's take an Adobe context. Let's say, Jordan, you'd created a LinkedIn newsletter about like design tips for small businesses, and you've collected a couple of thousand subscribers there. That would allow Adobe as a company to sponsor that newsletter and promote it. So great for you as an individual to promote it, and also great for Adobe to get in front of that audience that you curated too. So a true win-win. I think that represents a really
Cool.
good opportunity. I said I'd come back to this. Video content on LinkedIn is growing. Some people are seeing this already, both on mobile and desktop. I don't have it yet, so open up your app and let me know what you see. You should see videos for you at the top. If you've got this update yet, you might want to update your app. Not available to everyone yet, but again, videos for you sounds much like a For You page, doesn't it? So you're going to see LinkedIn continue to lean more into video. And as I said, even if you tap on any video that's in your feed on LinkedIn right now, you'll then be taken into a full screen like vertical video feed. So again, like creating for vertical will make sense on LinkedIn too, even though the desktop layout's quite different. I create all of my content in vertical on LinkedIn because I know a lot of consumption happens on mobile, and LinkedIn are much more leaning into that vertical format. A couple of things on TikTok, custom thumbnails. I think we all know what a custom thumbnail is all about, but this is very useful, especially when you look at like your profile grid, if you want, in TikTok. So that means we can control it better to make sure we've got the right thumbnails that give us the right call to action. TikTok has also landed voice search as well. So we've spoken about numerous times, if you've tuned into these roundups before, how important search is to TikTok and how increasingly people are using TikTok like a search engine. And now with voice search, that really starts to lean into how powerful TikTok is. And, I don't know about you, Jordan, but increasingly TikTok is my go-to place, especially if I'm looking for like things to do, places to visit, etc. TikTok is actually my first search. And it's turning into a lot of people's first search as opposed to Google. Now we got some voice search too. That continues to open up the use cases. Clone your own voice with AI. So let's see what you think about this one, Jordan, because you are a prolific video creator. And as we both know, taking multiple takes of a video is kind of hard and painful sometimes. Especially if you're doing kind of like walkthrough product demos, etc., because you're doing this, two things at once. You're kind of walking through something and narrating it. So now you can record your AI voice in TikTok. You can just feed it a couple of sentences and it will then clone your voice. So rather than using one of the TikTok baked in AI voices, you can actually create your own AI voice in your own tone. So that will assist you. Let's just say you want to get a video and you've lost your voice. That could be a good opportunity. I'd still rather it be my own voice, I think. But this does allow us to plug a gap. What do you think, Jordan?
It's interesting. I mean, I have certainly done way more takes of a video than I would like to. So I think there are, I can understand the use of this for sure. And also like, there have been times where I'm in a space where I can't record, like I'm in a loud environment or, it on public transportation or something, and I can't like record audio. So I can see, the value of using auto voices. I don't know how I feel about cloning my own voice, but I'll let other people decide if they want to do that.
I'm with you. Yeah, share some of your concerns on that. I think this really speaks to how powerful TikTok is as like or the algorithm on TikTok is as like a recommendation engine, right? So we can now be very specific about managing our topics. So again, thinking about like more healthy experiences on social media to make sure we're getting served content that actually means something to us and we're not mindlessly scrolling. You can now, as you can see, it's like a left and right toggle where we can say how much creative arts do we want versus the default, so we can really start optimizing our own experience to index on what we're talking about. And I think from a business perspective, as anyone watching this as a content creator, you want to think about maintaining like topic consistency, because if your target audience is, let's say, into creative arts, we want to make sure that if our focus is in the creative arts too, our content is all aligned with that topic. So we're not flitting between. We know our audience and we know the kind of thing that they want, because especially if people are starting to toggle their topics and choose their own experiences, we want to make sure we maintain topical relevancy for them and not switching up our content and our topics too much.
That's
Right
nice too.
then.
Just talking about like your feed and your algorithm. I've definitely had friends be like, "Oh, I looked up something once and now my whole algorithm is this thing that I like really don't need to see anymore." So it's nice to be able to I feel like the algorithm is pretty good, but then sometimes it does go a direction you're like, "I don't really want any more of this." So it's nice to have a little more control over that.
That is exactly it. So I think you, so many people have like reported a very similar thing. So yeah, I'll
I just looked
definitely
at
be
this once. I don't need it to be my whole feed forever.
exactly that. Exactly that. It's kind of like the organic equivalent of, looking at a pair of shoes or something that you wanted online, and then suddenly, Instagram and Facebook is filled with
Yeah,
it.
your
So
whole thing.
exactly. Well, so whilst you can't really control that experience, at least you can control the TikTok experience anyway.
Yes, good.
Cool. All right then, nearly there. We're actually going to make it on time with time to spare today. What a joy.
Love it.
Threads is improving topic tags. As you know, Threads don't do hashtags. They've stayed away from that. Also stayed away from like trending content as well, and like trending breaking news, that kind of stuff for obvious reasons. So now they're improving topic tags where you'll see a little kind of search magnifying glass icon, which allows us to look at things related to basketball finals if that's happening now. So those topic tags, remember, posts can only have one topic tag, and I really like that. So it gets away from like hashtag stuffing to try and get our content seen. So I think this is really good. So our content's about specific topics. We can tag a topic tag, which means that as users begin to adopt threads more frequently, of which they are, and start to use these topics and organize by topics, I think this is going to be a good opportunity for our content to be surfaced. Sticking with threads as well, we've now got
Nice.
analytics, incredibly necessary, especially as thread is growing right now. I keep on hearing from people as to how they're seeing really good results on threads, actually. So I'm a bit late to the party. I was probably too early to the party, and then didn't really like the party. I thought it was a bit quiet. So, but
Gotta
interestingly,
come back.
yeah, this is definitely on my kind of 2025 investigate further list, I would say, especially now that we're starting to see critical mass on it. We've got some more important things of topic tags, analytics, and now they've hit 200 million users. User retention is still not hugely high. It's a lot lower than some of the other platforms. So people are spending less time on threads than they are on TikTok or LinkedIn, for example. But it's definitely going in the right direction. Hence why it's just one of those things. It plays to take a more pragmatic approach. Look what's happening, your audience there, maybe do a bit of research, and then you can make a call as to whether you want to be on it. And of course, being on it isn't necessarily like, oh, I've got to post and open up a new platform. You've got things like cross-posting, which can help get you active on those platforms. And with that, it's a new world record,
I
Jordan,
know.
to get through
We
that
have
without rushing.
4 minutes for if anyone has any questions. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. So there is a lot in that. So and I apologize for how much was coming your way. But of course, you can go ahead and take that QR code, scan that QR code, and I'll share with you the recording and the slides too. So I'll give you a couple of seconds to do that.
And the recording is also available on Adobe Live's YouTube channel. And so if you want the slides, this is a great place for it. And if you missed this, then you can always find our our pre-recorded videos and a bunch of other videos as well. So if you want to catch up on the past couple months, we do this every month-ish, and then have all types of other info about like taking all this info that Andy just gave us and actually building out your social content with it. So definitely check out the many, many, many videos that are already available there.
Exactly that. So let's try and do a TLDR over the
Love it.
last, what do we have, 53 minutes. So let's take away these four things. Social video dominating. 1 to 2 minutes is performing the best across 1 minute, 30 seconds to 1 minute performing the best on YouTube, and 1 to 2 minutes performing the best on TikTok. Increasing consumption happening on LinkedIn as well. Just goes to show that video should be a core focus, particularly vertical video. We've spoken about this a lot today. Social media is becoming more fragmented and more private. More personal interactions is certainly what Instagram are building towards, with like notes and story comments and broadcast channel replies. All of those things really talk to that kind of more private, unique experiences. So think about, if Instagram's your thing, how can you create more kind of private, kind of intimate type of experiences to really make your followers feel connected to your brand, rather than just posting in the feed, which is still important, by the way, but this is a nuance to it. Threads is growing, Blue Sky is growing, so is Mastodon, which is another one of like the Fediverse platforms. As a quick note, the Fediverse relates to all of the social networks that speak to each other, where you could consume Mastodon or Blue Sky content on Threads, for example. So you can like choose your own adventure, if you will. So if Threads is your platform, you can still consume content from other creators that you follow on other networks. I think it's a really important piece of where social media might be going. So, hasn't become a macro trend yet, but definitely something to think about. Certainly younger audiences' preference for those kind of smaller niche experiences. And I think as brands, does make social more fragmented, but I think the opportunity then is thinking about who we collaborate with, like going right back to the first slide of this. And LinkedIn does look like a really good opportunity right now. It's still my favorite platform personally, but as a result of like video growth and the newsletter content, I think there's a lot of good stuff happening on the platform. And with that, I think that probably closes my narrative out.
No, that's great. Thank you so much, Andy. Like we said, this is a lot of information, so feel free to rewatch, screenshot what's useful to you, skip what's not, and hopefully this will just let you know like where we at least think the platforms are headed and the best way to take all this info and use it for your own socials. So thanks to the lively chat. It was great to hear your thoughts on things. Andy and I are always available online if you want to chat with us in between streams. And stay tuned for another great video coming up. So thank you all so much. Thanks for all that info, everyone. Andy. Thanks for doing all the work for us.
That's quite all right. Thank you so much for everyone sticking around and consuming it.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Have a good day, everyone.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.